Info Factory Track for CSI, the pick and ship process. Factory Track has several pick and ship parameters to control the validations, displayed fields, and processing options that are permitted as part of the pick and ship process. These are defined on the transaction set maintenance form for the pick and ship transaction. For this training, we've enabled the parameter to show where these parameters impact the transaction steps. To start the pick and ship process, from the Factory Track Warehouse Mobility main menu, click on the Ship It icon. This navigates to the Outbound Transactions menu, where you click on the Pick and Ship icon. This feature provides a consolidated process of the customer order picking and customer order ship features, which are also available individually from the Outbound Transactions menu. To pick and ship non-lot, non-serial items, enter or click on the search icon to search and select from the warehouse list for the warehouse ID where the items are located. This can also be defaulted to the user's warehouse based on configuration setting on the transaction set maintenance form. Enter or search and select the customer order ID which you are fulfilling. Specify whether container shipping will be used for fulfilling this customer order. Note this field is only enabled for entry if the allow container shipment parameter is enabled on the transaction set maintenance form. If yes is selected for the ship container field, an additional entry field for container ID is also enabled, and once specified, the application allows processing to pick all the available items from the container to support the fulfillment of the order. No item specification is required for this type of transaction. If the selection by item parameter is enabled, the item field will be displayed. You can enter, scan, or search and select the item ID being processed for this customer order. If the selection by item parameter is not enabled, the form will use the line ID as the identifier. You can enter or search and select the line ID instead. Enter the document number, which can be used to tie the transactions together, and click on Next to continue. Note that if an item ID or a line ID is not provided, the application will display a detailed list specifying the lines and items and their current fulfillment status for any lines that are not yet fully filled. Selection of one of the listed items is required before continuing with the process. Factory Track now displays the customer order process screen. Displays the following items based on the entry selected from the previous screens: the customer order, the line number, the item ID and description, the required quantity and unit of measure of the specified item that is specified on the customer order. We can then enter or scan or search and select the location ID from which the item is being picked and shipped. Factory Track defaults this field based on the ranking for the item location. We then enter the quantity of items being picked and shipped from the specified location. If the parameter settings on the transaction set maintenance form for allow overship is disabled, Factory Track displays an error if the quantity entered exceeds the required amount. If the parameter settings on the transaction set maintenance form for allow alternate units of measure is enabled, this field will be enabled to allow user to enter, search or select an alternate unit of measure. Factory Track will default the unit of measure as specified on the customer order. Click on Process to continue. If a partial pick quantity for the item was provided, Factory Track will display the line item identifying the remaining quantity required. Factory Track will prompt the user to continue the pick and ship process. Selecting a different menu item or clicking back will end the continued processing. If the item is lot controlled, a similar process happens with additional lot-specific fields used. After completing the initial entry form with a line or item that is lot controlled and clicking on Next, the pick and ship processing form is displayed with the selected items rank 1 location displayed. To change your selected location, you can enter, scan, or search and select the location ID. Search list provided is ordered by the location's ranking. You can enter, scan, or search and select the lot ID associated with the items being picked and shipped from the customer order. We can enter the quantity to be picked and shipped and specify the unit of measure. We then click on Process to process the pick and ship transaction. The item is serial controlled. A similar process with additional serial specific fields is used. After completing the initial entry form and entering the line or item that is serial controlled, the next screen is displayed to confirm the item ID, location ID, and to capture the quantity being picked and shipped. The application displays a form to capture and process the specific serial information for the total quantity as defined by the quantity to pick and ship entered on the previous screen. The scan quantity field is displayed to indicate the quantity of serial numbers that have been captured so far in the process. We then enter, scan, or search select the serial numbers for the quantity of items to be picked and shipped. Once the scan quantity equals the total quantity, the processing option is enabled. We click on Process to process the pick and ship, or we can click on the Show List to show the list of serial numbers captured in this process. If necessary, we can clear the list and re-enter them.